Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You have probably just finished watching the New York Giants take on the Buffalo Bills. What a great start to the preseason for the Giants. Even though, um, even though I would have liked to have seen, you know what? Let me just hold on for a second. Everything to me went the way that I thought it should go for the Giants in this team. I mean, in this game, except there were a few things that let's just say I was a little bit questionable about. We'll talk about it and more. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition. New York Giants on SI. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, a giant issue. You got to excuse me. My brain's all off. The ADHD goes a little crazy on the weekend and coming off of a game of my own on a Friday night. My Fighting Eagles, Josie High School, our first scrimmage of the season. That's why I sound like I'm hoarse, because I am kind of hoarse, right? But I couldn't miss the opportunity to like talk about the Giants. I was going to go live for the first half, and I decided not to go live for the first half. And thank goodness, because I probably would have like messed my voice up even more than what it is right now. But thought I would come to you guys after the game a little bit later than what I thought I was going to be, because I got held up, and then there were some internet forces that were against me to try to get here and talk to you. You want to know why? Because everything is going to be discussed as all great, all sunshines and rainbows. And while I do believe there's a lot of good to take from this game, there are some questionable things that we need to talk about on here. And I want to do so in a respectful manner. So first, I'm just going to go through the first half, because I believe the first half is really where the meat of this and what we're talking about is had. The first half was a very interesting first half. But for me, the problem is that the first half is indicative of what we've seen from the Giants and their offense / defense for the last goodness knows how many years, right? And I'll explain more as I get into this. The Giants offense has consistently been able to move the ball throughout the last few years. What has been the Achilles heel of this Giants offense? Yep, you guessed it. Its ability to score touchdowns. And shout out to the Bit Moo. Bit Moo, always a supporter of what we do over here on the Giants on SI and a Giant Issue podcast. I always appreciate your encouraging words, Bit Moo. I always appreciate the support. Listen to him, because he tells you to subscribe to this podcast all the time, and I really do appreciate it. The problem with this offense has been its ability to put the ball in the end zone. And I don't know if any of you were paying attention, but that was the problem once again in this game. The Giants, who had a myriad of opportunities to put the ball in the end zone, failed to put the ball in the end zone. Right? And I want to start, and that's where I want to start at. I want to start with what I consider to be the mistake, the big mistake that this coaching staff made going into this game. And the one big mistake that I believe the coaching staff made going into this game was not starting the wide receivers, right? Not starting the wide receivers that their number one quarterback had been used to throwing to all offseason. So now you put Russell Wilson out there with the first team offensive line for the most part. I do believe Evan Neal will eventually be in this first team. But you put out the first team offensive line, obviously without Andrew Thomas because he's out. You put out the first team running back. You put out the first team tight ends, but you didn't put out any of the first team running backs. And quarterback, wide receivers, and you didn't even put out Jalen Hyatt, which to me would have made perfect sense if you were going to sit all of the other guys. Now, I do think Wan'Dale Robinson got like a couple of snaps because he ended up with a reception, right? Isn't it crazy? One of the only completions that Russell Wilson had was a completion to one of the starting wide receivers. That's not by chance, right? That's not by chance. That's not by happenstance. And so what happens as a result of you not putting the starting wide receivers out there with Russell Wilson, the offense looked disjointed. The offense looked haphazard. It looked like it wasn't in sync. Russell Wilson looked like he wasn't in sync. And please continue to put your comments in. I'll pop through them as we're going through, but it looked as if a guy was playing with people that he was not used to playing with. And that was a shame for Russell Wilson because I do believe he had the opportunity to kind of cement why he should be the starting quarterback for this team this year, right? But that didn't happen. And so my notes, because I have notes, right? First drive was sloppy, haphazard. They didn't play the starting wide receivers. No Hyatt. Those are Wilson's wide receivers. It was a questionable decision. There was 2 penalties by Hudson that was like, right? It leads to a field goal by Gano, a 50-plus yard field goal. And I'm with the big move here. Seeing Gano hit these field goals was a great sign. It was a sign that he's healthy. It was a sign that he's ready for another season. It doesn't mean he'll stay healthy, but it is a sign that he is healthy and that he can still kick field goals like we know he can kick field goals, right? So that was a great sign. But it wasn't a great sign for the offense because it means that the offense did not get the ball in the end zone. And that is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. This offense has always been able to produce field goals or to get the ball down into the opponent's area and not score. That's been what this offense has been able to do. But this offense has not done at a good enough clip over this entire regime's life has been to get the ball into the end zone on a regular basis, right? I think that where we mess up with as consumers is that we don't hold them accountable enough for what they're supposed to do. And even in the comments, I already see people trying to give them kind of an out. And I'm not here to do this. I'm not here to do that. So, second series. Sorry, let me back up. First defensive series. Great. Penalties, McFadden, right? McFadden is makes a good tackle on Ray Davis in the flat. Great coverage by Banks on the goal ball. On Palmer, Drew Phillips makes a hit that keeps the tight end for Buffalo from picking up a first down. By the way, a Buffalo offense that played all of their starters outside of the quarterback and and the wide receiver, but that was because he was hurt, right? So those things, haphazard things, right? I don't like the fact that I'm going back to the offense, right? Because Sean Lee says that Hudson kept Russ from getting a touchdown. But that's a part of what your job is as the quarterback. It's to overcome, it's to overcome um it's to overcome when people make mistakes, right? And so, yeah, that was a part of Wyatt, but it wasn't the only reason, right? We watched the game all together. He didn't make plays. When he was making plays, he wasn't really pushing anything that would have been scary or picked up any legitimate yardage for the offense, right? If you look at his statistics from the game, if you look at his statistics from the game, to me, those statistics are not those of excitement. 6 for 7. That means he threw the ball 7 times. He completed 6 of them. He only got 28 yards. That's not good. I'm sorry. It's just not good. And that opened up the door for what Jackson Dart did when he came in. And here's how Jackson Dart was set up for success. And I'm not mad at him being set up for success, but here's how he was set up for success. Jackson Dart got the advantage of staying behind that number 1 offensive line for most of the time. But the number 2 wide receivers, those are the receivers he's been working with all this time. So he had the opportunity to work with the receiving core that he's been working with, and they had success. He also took major advantage of Dante Miller and what Miller was doing. Turbo looked great. And I know there's been comments about Turbo. I think that there's a role on this team for Turbo Miller. What? Right? I think there's a role on this team for Turbo Miller. I think that he needs to be on this team because when he gets the ball, he explodes at a different level than any other running back on this team. When he gets the ball, when he gets it, it's a different level. It's a different level than anybody else that's on this team. Anybody. Nobody looks like they're shot out of a cannon every single time they touch the ball. Now, Turbo Miller is terrible between the tackles. Can we all just agree on that? He's not a great between the tackle runner. He runs into the backs of blocks. He doesn't seem to be able to find the lanes consistently to get through. It's not his bag. That's not where he's going to excel at. But anytime you get him out in space, right? Anytime you get him out in space, he is an absolute monster because that explosiveness picks up 4 to 5 yards before the defense has any opportunity to change. And again, I apologize to anybody who's listening and think that maybe my audio is messing up. That's my voice. It is gone. And after I talk to you today, I'm probably not going to talk all the rest of the day and tomorrow as I try to get this thing back under control. He deserves to be a part of this team. So on to the second series, right? Second series, Dart goes 3 for 4 on short passes. Team picked up a first down. Dart missed the tight end on a critical third down. right? It should have been completed. That would have kept the drive going. Could have gotten points off of that. I'm not saying it would have been a touchdown, but that was a get it into territory. Now we're trying to get to points. But 3 for 4, making the passes he should make. He missed one pass he should have made, right? Second defensive series. I don't know why that was a roughing the passer on Robertson Harris. There's no way for him to let up. He exploded through. He hit him in the midsection. That should not be a penalty. That's dumb. But it doesn't matter. After that, the defense went 3 and out. Here's my only problem. We're 2 series in, and all I've seen are pressures. All I've seen are pressures. Guess what this defense has not had a problem doing, right? This defense has not had a problem getting pressures. So there was a comment said, I'm here to hear what your thoughts are on Carter. My thoughts on Carter was he's doing what the defensive ends and edge rushers from the New York Giants have done this entire tenure. They get pressure on the quarterback, but they're not getting home for the sack. Now, small sample size, I know. But you're asking me, am I supposed to be overwhelmed by his performance? No, I'm not. I'm not going to be overwhelmed by his performance. He's doing what a guy who is picked with a top 5 pick is supposed to do. He's getting pressure. Now he's got to get home, because that is why people have so many problems with Kayvon Thibodeau. They feel like he should get home more than what he's getting home. You got to hold the other guy to the same you got to hold the other guy to the same standard, if not higher, right? If not higher. So I thought it was good. I thought it was a solid performance, because I thought it was a solid performance overall by the defense when the first guys were in there. And so that's where we were. Third offensive series, Dart was amazing. Dylan, right? He got hit while throwing, or he hit the ball while throwing. He got hit by throwing. He got hit with a ball while throwing. It should have been intercepted. It wasn't. But here's what I like. I love the fact that the very next play he came back. And on that play, he put it out there for an absolute dime in the corner. An absolute dime. That's the type of thing you need from a quarterback. You need someone to have amnesia about what could have gone wrong, and only focus on what can go right. And I think that's what Jackson Dart did. And it's funny, because later on in the game, in the second half, we see the same thing from Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston out there working with dudes, gets intercepted. It's a offsides on the defense. He doesn't come back and get passive. He keeps pushing. He keeps driving them down. Touchdown pass in the end, right? That's what you like to see. And so it was great to see that from Dart on the third drive. Absolutely beautiful ball to Humphrey. That's what you want out of your first round pick at a quarterback. Third defensive series. The second defense got carved up by Trubisky, and a lot of the offensive starters for Buffalo. So here's what I'll say, because shout out to a lesson learned. I don't care that Dawkins is at left tackle. You are supposed to be a generational talent. Dawkins is not a generational talent at left tackle. We can argue over this all day long. Your job is to get sacks. That is the standard that you Giants fans have set by the way that you treated Kayvon Thibodeau. Don't tell me he disrupted a whole drive with pressures. I've seen Kayvon Thibodeau make sack, strip sack, pick it up, run it in for a touchdown. And when that was going on, people still came out and said, "Oh, I don't know." People still had issues with him. I watched him go for double-digit sacks in a season, and people come out and go, "Yeah, but it was only against, hey, it was this." So if the standard is going to be for what Kayvon Thibodeau should be doing, don't tell me that Abdul Carter is better. That Abdul Carter is a generational talent, which nobody ever said about Kayvon Thibodeau, and then tell me it's okay for him to just get pressures. Now, again, it's only the first preseason game, and we don't know what he would have done had he had an entire game. But come on, people. Let's not change the standard because you like the kid. Right? If he is supposed to be him, then be him. Dart came in there being him. I got to give him credit for that. Because if he had a bad game, people might be on here killing that poor dude. And I'd be on here going, that is why he shouldn't play this first year. I still believe he shouldn't play this first year. Right? But he played like a guy who might be ready to play this first year at some point. I'm with you, John Ferraro. He's doing much better sooner than I thought. Because it's not even that I wasn't a believer. It's that I just didn't think he was ready right now. I still don't know if he's ready right now, but he looked ready right now. We'll see, because obviously we know these defenses are not like crazy, right? Anyway, let me move on. Fourth series, Jake Cubis, holding, and he got beaten pass pro by the gigantic behemoth 6'7" dude, but not with power. He got out finessed by that guy. That can't happen. That was a bad look for him. Still, after that, good protection. Dart pushing the ball down deep, but two bad short passes cost them keeping the drive going, and that led to Gano's second field goal. Back to my problem, right? Back to my problem. Gotta have touchdowns. Can't just settle for sacks. Gotta have touchdowns. Can't just settle for sacks. Gotta find a way to get the ball in the end zone. A lesson learned. I agree with you. He has a chance to clear Tibbs' rookie numbers, but you guys told me that Tibbs' rookie numbers were not good enough. So is it okay for Abdul Carter to just clear his rookie numbers, or does Abdul Carter need to put up double-digit sacks? Right? That's what you guys have to figure out. And I will not stand for any moving of the goalpost on what is and is not acceptable. I was here every week listening to people talk noise about Kayvon Thibodeau from the moment he stepped in. Remember, Kayvon Thibodeau caught a weird helmet to the knee on a run play in preseason, started the year injured, missed a game, maybe two, I can't remember exactly, and then came on, right? And then came on. So he didn't even play the full season. He showed flashes of what he could be. And we continued, and by we, I mean you, not you personally, maybe, but Giants fans continually questioned whether or not he could be good. Continually questioned it. Lesson learned. You said you're willing to bank on 10 sacks. I'm here to tell you, because I don't have the same standards as you guys, I'm going to hold you to your standards. I think he could have a phenomenal rookie season without getting double-digit sacks, because I believe in a committee. So if he has 7 or 8 sacks, and Thibodeau has 7 or 8 sacks, and Burns has 7 to 8 sacks, and now you sprinkle in 2 to 3 from some backups, and then on the interior, right, you get Dexter Lawrence with 7 to 8 sacks. Sprinkle some more in on the interior. Sprinkle some in from linebackers blitzing. That is a really good season getting the quarterback on the ground. That's when you mix in the pressures, like John Ferraro said. That's where you mix in the pressures with the sacks. That's where you mix in the pressures with the sacks. And some of you guys who are talking second half, stay tuned. I'm going to talk second half for sure. I'm going through these offensive series. The fourth defensive series was a 3-and-out once the Bills put the second unit in. But it was only a 3-and-out because there was a big drop. It was a big drop by the Bills on safety Raheem Lane, who came in late and made it look like it would have been a pass breakup, but it wasn't a pass breakup. That dude just dropped the ball. Right? So the fifth series, Dart worked well. He was in the 2-minute. He was moving the ball. Again, there's Dante Miller's fingerprints all over this, because every time he got dumped off with a pass, he was shooting. He was gone, right? He got to a third down throw. That throw was late and it was behind, right? It was late and it was behind the wide receiver. I believe it was Washington. I heard many people saying that Washington dropped 2 passes. They said, and this is where we give the wrong people the blame for things. I even heard, I even saw Pete Traynor say it. And I love our fearless leader at New York Giants on SI. But to me, right? But to me, if you throw the ball where it's supposed to be and someone drops it, then it's on the receiver. If you don't throw the ball where it's supposed to be and the receiver can't bail you out, then that's different. Right? That's different. And so I have to think about that. That third down, the third down that Dart threw down to Washington, it was too far down. Washington couldn't keep it up off the ground before it hit. That second one was just a bad pass. It was behind them. It was late. If that DB had been stickier, that's a pick 6. So that cost them from being able to score again before the end of the first half. They had to settle for another Gano field goal. Now, I want y'all to understand this. That is a touchdown and 3 field goals. The score is 16-7 at that point, with just a few seconds left or a little bit of time left in the first half. Less than a minute. That should have been the entire half. Law of unintended consequences when you don't put 3 touchdowns up, when you just put 3 field goals up, and it's not 28-7. Buffalo gets a big play from another busted coverage, another defensive scheme that doesn't look like they know what they're doing, right? That happens, and now you go into halftime only up by 2, 16-14. You make it a game when it shouldn't have been a game. You make it a game when it shouldn't have been a game. That's the difference on when you're getting field goals versus touchdowns. Remember the game, I think it was last year, where the Giants kept kicking field goals. Dallas scored a touchdown. The Giants kicked field goals. Then all of a sudden, Dallas scores a late touchdown. And I think Dallas scored 2 touchdowns and maybe 2 field goals versus the Giants 4 field goals. And if those are 4 touchdowns, the Giants win that game. That's the difference. And that is where this offense needs to grow. But overall, first half, first and second offensive unit, no sacks. No sacks. And that is versus a Bills defense that invested heavily in the defensive line in the offseason and through the draft. Defensive tackles, defensive ends, edge rushers. They invested in the defensive line. They even brought in a second defensive coordinator, right? They even brought in a second defensive coordinator to help bolster the pass rush. So the fact that they've been able to hold up in the first half was a really great sign. A really great sign. Now, here's the beauty of the second half. We start the second half off with the wonderkin that is Jameis Winston. And I'll just say this about it. I love to see like the fact that he isn't afraid. He isn't afraid to fire the ball around. But they had him out there working with some mid. They had him out there working with the also-rans. So the fact that he was still able to score a touchdown, shout out to him. Shout out to him. I want to finish off the talk about Carter because I know there's a lot of talk about Carter in here. You know, I agree with the bit move. That a sack and a tackle for a loss are both important. But tackles for a loss don't get you all pros without sacks. And again, I have to emphasize the fact that this is the level of expectations that Giants fans have put on pass rushers with this team. Remember all of the guys. Remember Lorenzo Carter. Lorenzo Carter from an edge rusher had, I want to say he had like, I don't even want to misspeak. I'm going to look it up because I remember seeing it and I remember watching how Giants fans talked about him. And I just felt so bad for him because I felt like they were just missing the point and missing the point on purpose. On purpose. Lorenzo Carter, his final season with the Giants, right? Mind you, his first 2 years, 66 tackles, 4 sacks. Not bad. 65 tackles, 4.5 sacks. Not bad. His third season, he got hurt. His fourth season, he came back from injury. He had 72 tackles and 5 sacks and an interception. And everyone said, yo, we got to get rid of Lorenzo Carter. The man had 72 tackles from the edge. So when Big Moo talks about tackles for loss, I have to remember that we didn't really, and by we I mean Giants fans, didn't really care too much about what someone did, right? We didn't really care as much about what someone did in the backfield. That year, his rookie year, Lorenzo Carter, sacks and tackles for loss, right? Sacks and tackles for loss. He had 11. When you add in the sacks, tackles for loss, and quarterback hits, right? He had 10 quarterback hits. The next year, he had 10 and a half total sacks and tackles for loss, 13 quarterback hits. The fourth year, where he started playing a little bit more inside, right, in his 14 games, he had 11 tackles for loss, 8 QB hits. Nobody cared. Why? Go look up the comments if you think I'm making it up. Go look at the comments if you think I'm looking it up. It was because he did not sack the quarterback. It was because he didn't sack the quarterback. Matter of fact, I can go back further than that. I can give you, if I'm not mistaken, Marcus Golden, right? Marcus Golden with the Giants in 2019 had 10 sacks, and everybody was clamoring for the Giants to get rid of Marcus Golden. After, hey, you can't pay Marcus Golden. You can get somebody better than that. The man had 72 tackles and 10 sacks, and it was not good enough. 13 tackles for loss that season. It was not good enough. He had had a 12 and a half sack season with Arizona. It was not good enough. Into the next year, traded, gone. Right? Into that next season, he was traded and he was gone. In 2021, he had 11 sacks. So we don't care as much about the tackles as we say we do. We'll just say it because it's convenient, right? We'll just say it because it's convenient. But I remember that Golden. I told you guys, I've been covering the Giants for much longer than people realize. I've been covering for much longer than people realize. I'm not an OG, right? But I've always paid attention to the Giants, and I've been covering them specifically for many years. I remember that. And now we're sitting here saying, hey, Kayvon Thibodeau's not good enough, but Abdul Carter, what he's doing is. And I'm just saying that I'm going to hold people to that standard that they set for all of those guys that came before him. They wanted Leonard Williams, who's an interior defensive lineman, to have consistent double-digit sacks, even though the team was asking him to take on double teams on a consistent basis. They wanted him to have double-digit sacks. That's why this fan base wanted him gone, because they didn't see the value in all of those tackles that he was making. They only saw the value in the sacks. They thought that Dexter Lawrence was a bust. They thought that Dexter Lawrence was going to be a bust until he got sacks. Nobody realized he had been playing out of position as a defensive end in a 30 front for the first few years of his career. Nobody took that into consideration. The moment they moved him to nose guard, he went off. But because he wasn't getting sacks, they wanted him gone. Now he's considered to be one of the best defensive tackles in the game. Sorry if you think I'm ranting, but like I need everybody to really and truly understand the gravitas of what's being asked of these people on these platforms, what's being asked of these defensive linemen from Giants fans because of Strahan and because of OC and because of Justin Tuck and because of Pierre Paul and so on and so forth. But they don't understand, or what people fail to understand is it was the conglomerate, it was the unit, the total of people that's what made that defensive line so good. It was not one person. So the fact that hopefully the Giants are getting back to that total is what I'm so excited about for this defense. But even then, I'm going to make you Giants fans either admit that you were wrong about other people or hold the people now to the same standard, because all of you let Brian Burns skate on the fact that he didn't have double-digit sacks last year. Y'all let him skate on that. He got a $100 million contract from the Giants and did not have double-digit sacks. And yet nobody, I haven't heard one person say, hey, Brian Burns has to be better this year. Haven't heard one person say it. But plenty of people are saying that Kayvon Thibodeau, this is a make or break season for him, even though he's coming off of a season where he missed a lot of time for injury. And if he did not have that injury, he would have probably had double-digit sacks again, because the guy who replaced him had 6 sacks and he himself had 5. Maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. Who knows? I like that. I like this second half. I didn't like anything on the defense in the second half. I thought this defense played awful in the second half. I was really hoping to see some standouts on the defense in the second half. I did not. I did not see Darius Alexander make any impressions when they went to the second team offensive line. Now, again, we're watching in real time. So when I go back and break down the film, maybe I'll see something different. But in the first half, I'm sorry, but in the first look, the live look, didn't see Darius Alexander, right? I didn't see Darius Alexander doing anything that made me go, right? Hey, Jamal Black, welcome, my guy. We enjoyed the win. We're 43 minutes in. So you missed the part where I was extolling about the positives, right? But I don't care about the preseason win more than I care about what it's going to take to win in the regular season. And that's what we're just talking about, the things, the observations from the preseason, right? Tommy DeVito, what you guys think about Tommy DeVito? I think it's really interesting. Tommy DeVito came in. He's playing like a veteran backup, right? Tommy DeVito could be a veteran backup on a lot of teams. He just unfortunately happens to be on a team with a lot of talent at quarterback now. Here's what I could see happening, right? Because it's almost becoming clear that Jameis Winston could be the bargaining chip for the Giants to pick up some capital some type of way, right? If some quarterback goes down, if some quarterback is not performing to the level that they would like to see it, I could see them trading Jameis Winston for whatever capital, right? Even though I think he's great for the locker room. I wouldn't want to see him traded, but I could see it happening. Tommy, if they're not going to keep 4 quarterbacks. They're not going to keep 4 quarterbacks, right? And he'll never clear. Wait, You know what? Bitmoo just said it. Shout out to Bitmoo. They're not going to keep 4 quarterbacks, and he's never going to clear waivers. If Tommy DeVito goes in and they cut him, he'll be on somebody else's team. If you do that, then can you afford to get rid of Jameis Winston? Because now you're essentially forcing yourself into saying, Jackson Dart has to be ready to go right now. And I don't know if they want to put that pressure on Jackson Dart. I really do believe they would like for Jackson Dart to just chill this year. Hey, yo, bro, just learn what's going on. Learn what's going on and be ready for next year. And maybe we open up the competition between you and Russell Wilson in year 2 if we bring Russell Wilson back for another year. But Tommy DeVito looked good. He looked like a legitimate backup quarterback, like a high level backup quarterback when he came in. Right? The offense, to me, and I said it, what I wanted to see was I wanted to see those twos on the offensive line perform together. I was impressed by the ones and the twos together on the offensive line. Marcus Bowe, he looked good over there on the right side. Right outside of the 2 penalties. James Hudson looked good on the left side with the starters. Jake Cubis looked good at guard. We didn't see Neal because Neal had an injury. I actually don't really think he was injured. I just think they held him out as a precaution. I don't think it's anything to worry about. But the depth of this offensive line is coming together really nicely. And that's got to be positive. That's got to be positive. There's a lot of dynamic pass receiving options. Hey, yo, Washington looks twitchy. He looks like a really good backup for Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm still pissed, and I know people have talked about it in here, about the ability that Jalen Hyatt and how sneaky good he can be in this offense. Right? That's funny. I just saw this by John Ferraro. I swore earlier that I would not argue with Coach about Winston anymore. That's funny. You shouldn't, because he's really not a non-factor, other than the fact that he's just so fun, right? I don't think DeVito has any trade value. What Big Moo just said. I don't think DeVito has any trade value, because I think people will try to call his bluff, right? I think people will try to call their bluff. Like, are you willing to hold on to 4 quarterbacks? You're not going to cut Winston. You're not going to cut Winston. That would be disrespectful. And you're paying him enough money that it would actually kind of hurt you to cut him, right? DeVito, he can get cut. It's not going to hurt. I think teams will call their bluff. I think ultimately you trade Winston, you cut DeVito. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they could get a 7th for DeVito. But then also I'm almost like, shouldn't you let DeVito do him, right? Like, he's been nothing but good to you. He's done everything you asked. Let him go. Allow him to find a place that he feels comfortable with going to. He deserves that. I don't think anyone's putting too much on Alexander. I think that Alexander needed to look good versus backups, John. Versus second and third string offensive linemen. Like, he should have looked good versus those guys. I think that would have been better. Are we perfect? Yeah. I keep hearing people say that the energy on this team feels different. And I got to tell you guys, I think y'all are reaching. I've heard it, but I've heard it from a lot of people, right? And I've heard it from people who are inside. And I'm just here to tell you, I didn't see anybody looking doom and gloom last year when this team was going through training camp. 2 years ago, remember, this team is coming off of a 2022 where they went to the playoffs. That next season, it was it was high flying, it was juice everywhere. Then last year happened. But going into last year, I don't think anyone thought the last year was going to be what last year was. The difference is that the quarterbacks are not like robots, right? Like Russell Wilson is a company man, meaning he's going to say all the right things, do all the right things. But like Jameis Winston's not a robot. Jackson Dart's not a robot. And because those are the figureheads, those are the popular people to see because they play the glamour position, their position feels different. And because their position feels different, the team maybe feels different. But all of the stuff that I've seen is all the stuff I saw last year and the year before that. I'm sorry. Like, I haven't seen any difference between the attitude of the others. I've only seen the difference in the quarterbacks, right? DeVito, he has personality. Winston has personality, right? Dart has personality. Wilson has personality. It's just more like um um company man type of personality. Like within the confines of the right thing to say and or do. Type of energy. So I will agree that that feels different, but I don't think the team feels different. I think everyone's felt confidence from the beginning. And then people who tell you that it feels different, what they're really saying, and do what I do. And if not, I'll be willing to translate. When they say it feels different, they're saying the quarterbacks are better. That's it. When they say it feels different, what they're really saying is, hey, the quarterbacks are better. The quarterback and the other ones who come in after him, they're all better. We feel more confident in them. Like, who's had more confidence than Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau? Dexter Lawrence. Ain't nothing changed for them guys. Them guys are still confident. Right? Bobby Okereke, still confident. When they had Xavier McKinney, he exuded confidence. Now they have Javon Holland, a similar personality that exudes confidence. So I don't think any of these things have changed. I think what has changed, and thank goodness, because if you looked at what Jackson Dart did and you looked at what Daniel Jones did, everyone who was saying, oh, Daniel Jones is going to go to Indianapolis and light it up. Ladies and gentlemen, you saw what it looked like when he went in there with the ones. He was in there with the ones versus a team that was not playing the ones. That's all I'm gonna say on the DJ thing. Turbo Miller, great showing. Who else are my standouts? I wrote down some standouts, and I'll have a piece up on New York Giants on SI later on today. Turbo Miller standout, LaJordan Humphrey standout, Jackson Dart standout, Deontay Banks standout, Marcus Bowe standout. I like the way Gunnar Olshansky played today, or Shevsky played today. He was a standout for me. Five losers. And I say this without saying like losers as in they're losing. Just they didn't win today. Right? They didn't win today. Shane Bourne was not a winner today. Russell Wilson, not a winner today. Jake Cubis, not a winner today. Um, and this is margins, right? This is small margins. But if you're gonna have winners, you gotta have losers. That's how it kind of works. You gotta have people to argue about, right? Um, the secondary, the backup secondary, not winning. Um, and the backup defensive line, not winning. So I think that there's some there's some depth issues that need to be worked out on the defensive side. I think that the depth is coming along on the offensive side, and we'll continue to see how this thing moves forward as we go into week 2 of preseason. Really excited about being able to talk about the Giants after a win, even a preseason win, because with even when you have even when you have negative things to say, right? You can always end with, yeah, but at least they win, right? Right? At least we won. Big Moo, it looked like the offensive line depth was was really good. It looked like the offensive line depth was really good. It looked like the defensive line depth didn't show up. But I also don't know who was supposed to play where and what. I don't know if all of the guys played. To be honest with you, like I said, we're watching this thing in real time. And so as I start going back to rewatch when the all 22 drops, when I go back to rewatch the all 22, I want to look at the defensive line breakdown and how much people played, because the defensive line depth didn't look like it should. But you also got to remember that the defensive line depth is based on primarily based on edge rushing depth, right? You got Burns, you got Thibodeau, you got Carter, you've got it just came out, but the defensive end from the Cowboys, it'll come back to me. That defensive line depth on the inside is what we'll need to see how that continues to go. I think there was a good play. One of the big inside defensive linemen had a good play. So it wasn't all doom and gloom, but they got to get better. The defensive secondary looked questionable, but also I don't know. Like, did anybody see Cordell Flott? I don't know if we really saw Cordell Flott. Um, that makes a difference. Yeah, Chauncey Golston. I don't know if Chauncey Golston played today. Thank you, Big Moo. Um, I don't know if Chauncey Golston played today. Like, that makes a big difference in the depth. So, and some other guys. I don't know if Ledbetter played. So, like, I think we'll see. But it looks like we need to see a little bit more. Um, we'll see. We'll see. That's all I'll say. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking to you guys more. Hey, appreciate all of the people who are on for the chat. I mean, for the chat. The chat. Have mercy. The Big Moo, a lesson learned. John Ferraro. Thank you for your comments. Jamal Black, thank you for coming in, commenting. Always appreciate everybody coming in and talking, letting their voice be heard. That's what we're here for. Sadhu Berry, shout out to you. Um, Papillion Noir. Oh, yes, let's mention that. Fedoni did look impressive as a pass receiver. Plucked a couple passes out of the air. Um, I like to see that. That's great for me. I just need to know if he can block. I ain't really see that. I'm gonna need to see some blocking out of Youngin, because we've got enough people already that can pluck it out the air. Sean Lee, shout out to you for popping in early. Really do appreciate it. Um, somebody put a comment in here really ridiculous. I won't even like. I don't know what's going on. Hey, Bit Moo, I'm not actually that tired. So you saying that means that I don't look good and I don't appreciate it. I'm kidding. I do sound tired though. This voice is worn out. It was a long day yesterday, as most football Fridays are. Um, I will get some rest, but mostly I'll be hey, John Ferraro, chill out, chill out. I look tired. That's a shame. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. Don't talk about me like that, please. And definitely, as always, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Let's keep running the numbers up. Yes, there are other Giants platforms out there that have more followers than we do, but at the end of the day, um, we know that what we do over here at a Giant issue is we try to keep it fair and unbiased. So I appreciate everybody out there for jumping in and hanging out with us. I'm always here to chat. So if you leave something in the comments, I'll definitely respond when I have time. Until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a Giant issue.